last but not least in these creativity hacks is about review and about critique and about sharing. And each of us has a different way of dealing and interacting with that. Where I started painting by going along to watercolour evening class. And what I noticed was that each artist's own personality was coming out, whatever we were painting. And we were encouraged by the artist taking the class to halfway through the class just stop and get up and wander around and look at other people's work. And as much as anything, that gives you that distance and space and coming away from your work, from being in it, but also seeing and noticing there's so many different ways that people can come at exactly the same topic. And I feel that a sign of actually a really good art class is to have a room full of different work, all inspired by the same topic. Because that is about finding the artist's voice in a way. And I know that in a few years ago, I was really concerned about consistency with my work and finding my voice, so to speak, or my vision, if you're using that word. And a teacher said to me, at the time, don't worry too much about that, because it will come in its own time. And I see some artists that have almost got trapped by that voice, by the feedback that they get from others, and that could be from commercial feedback in terms of sales, and that can then limit where you go with that creativity and that voice and where you move forward. But sometimes it's a necessity, depending on whether artists are trying to make their living from that piece of work or their pieces of work. It may be that they are happy to make that trade-off. And I think that happens in many creative industries, that balance between what the audience wants and desires versus the artists and their creativity and where they're pushing forward. And I often think about that, and maybe that's what links with my work in Mindtrip as well, of not wanting to productise myself too. I have other reasons for not wanting to productise myself, but is that I don't want to be limited by one particular way of painting or seeing, because painting is almost like a story, and you see that story and that autobiography evolve over time. And I'm sure is exactly the same in lots of other creative endeavours, music, writing. And if you're being asked to keep on producing stuff that you were doing 5 years ago and your creative wellspring is going somewhere else, that can create tension. And I know some people manage to compartmentalize that, so they carry on doing one particular type of work and then they have a wilder creative experimental practice on the side. And if you go to exhibitions of different artists, you'll see almost sort of phases of their career. And I like to see that. I like to see that developing, that history. And it sort of goes counter culture, that this desire for cookie cutting, as I use it at the moment, that we see some sort of successful formula, and then once it's found, it's then repeated over and over and over again. And I think that it's really important to have that feedback, to get that sharing piece. I think it's really important for creative people to share, but not at the point of it limiting their practice and where they need to go. And connected to this, therefore, is how you make your money, where you make your money from, and whether that links to creative practice or not, and how you manage that. So I think I personally don't invite critique as I'm working, because I find the few times that I have had it happen, when I'm getting other people's opinions as I'm working, it stops the expression of what it is that I'm wanting to express, because I'm then hearing their voice, their view of the world, and that causes, for me, a sort of a stuckness. Now, for other people, that might be the very heart of their practice, and that they might invite that in. But I then also felt that I needed to share. And so therefore you'll see I do open studios, I have Instagram accounts, I'm doing these videos now, and I have my own website. And I just felt this desire, an urge to share my work. And it was also very frightening and scary to do that. Quite often you'll find that very creative endeavours, they're very personal, and so you'll find a lot of creatives that there's that hurdle to get over, to share with the world. And it's really interesting to hear that you inspire other people, or that they go off and take something and work it in their own way, because it really helps the whole creative community flourish. So I really would advocate sharing, and I share sometimes work in progress, and generally share at the end. But as I say, the practice could be different for different people. So I hope that you enjoyed this series of me talking about different elements to my creative process, and the things that I've noticed that are really important to me. And it would be really interesting to hear what elements that I've missed that are really important to you, and to create a conversation about this. So thank you for watching.